Thank you for being here, for coming in. And if anybody's seeing this online later, well, good to see you as well. So obviously, we're all here because we want to get better at reaching our audience and getting more people to buy our products and services. All we've been hearing about over these last 2 days and over the last few months is AI, and how now it's going to be easier to create messaging, more messaging is going to be in the marketplace, and more people are going to be fighting for more things, are fighting for more people's attention. Before AI really got to be a big thing, people were receiving between 3,000 to 5,000 commercial messages a day already. So 3,000 to 5,000 commercial messages every single day, and yours, when you're trying to reach people, is one of those 3,000 to 5,000. So there is so much noise that is in the marketplace. And because there's so much noise in the marketplace, we have to find new ways of cutting through that noise and reaching our audience in a way that is incredibly clear, is incredibly concise, and is incredibly compelling. And most companies are not doing that well. Most companies are wasting an enormous amount of money on marketing, because they're, especially as now AI is coming, is they're putting out these messages that are unclear. They're spending more money on tools that get your message to the audience faster. And not only are you not breaking through the noise, spending a lot of money, but actually you're turning people away. For instance, now when people search and come to your website, the average amount of time that somebody spends on a website is 3.7 seconds. 3.7 seconds. So if within 3.7 seconds, you cannot quickly convey to your customer what it is that you offer, how you make their life better, and how they get it, they're gone. They're gone. And we're throwing great images out there, we're throwing a lot of great branding out there, but our messaging is incredibly off. And it's so important for the messaging to be on point, because what we need to understand is that when people are buying your products, it's based on, obviously, typically the words they're hearing or reading about your products. And the messaging that we're putting out there is not only not breaking through the noise, but it's actually confusing our customers. And there's a reason why your message needs to be compelling and needs to be clear. The brain is designed to keep us alive. Our brain is constantly trying to keep us alive. And two ways that our brain is doing this is, the first is our brain is helping us focus on what helps us survive and thrive, right? Of the people who are here right now, do you know where the exit is if there was an emergency right now? Yeah, you know automatically. How many chairs are in this area? You don't know. How many lines are on the floor? How many windows are on the wall? How many boxes are on this wall? All that information is available to us at any given moment, and our brain doesn't pay attention to it. It's designed to only focus on the things that help us survive and thrive. So we know where the exits are. If I said, do you know where the coffee is? I promise you'd know the coffee, right? Right? We know those things because our brain just does that automatically. You could walk into any auditorium in the world, doesn't matter how big it is, you could ask that same question. How many people know where the exits are? Everybody in that stadium would raise their hand. But they did it subconsciously. That's what we have to understand that our customers are constantly doing, is scanning their environment, and at any given moment, they are designed, the brain works in a way that gets rid of information that they cannot see immediately contributes to their survival and thriving. And so the reality is, most of us are positioning our products and services like the chairs in this room, and our customers are looking for the exits. And they're ignoring us because they're, I don't know if you know that you watched, what was that movie? The line is, "You're killing me, Smalls." You know, what's that movie? You know that movie? It's old, I can't remember. Sandlot, yes, from Sandlot. There's a line where it's like, "Oh, you're killing me, Smalls." That's, oddly enough, that's what our brain is doing when we're reading messages that are confusing and do not contribute to our survival and thriving. The brain of our customers is actually going, if I pay attention to this any longer, I might die. I might die. And it sounds dramatic, but that's actually how the brain works. We're always looking for ways to survive and thrive and get rid of information, because the other thing the brain is doing is that when you have to process information, your brain actually burns calories. So right now, While you're sitting here, you're actually working out. Your brain is working and burning calories. The more you have to think and process, the more calories your brain burns. Now, our brain also knows, because it's focused on survival and thriving, that if all of a sudden I have to think too hard at any given moment and I run out of calories, if an emergency happens, I'm gonna die. That's how our brain is very dramatic. It's always thinking we're gonna die, right? Very dramatic, but that's what's happening. So what happens is you start to daydream. The average human daydreams 30% of their day, 30%. And that's a survival mechanism, because what your brain is doing is going, all this information is causing me to have to think too hard, burn too many calories, and if a car comes crashing through that window right now, I might die. Why this is important to understand is because this is how we all function. It's how we all live at any given moment. And your customers' brains are in that fight or flight dramatic mode at every given minute of the day. So if your communication that you are giving to them does not directly and easily contribute to their survival and thriving, and you do it in a way that causes them to burn too many calories, they ignore you. That, because you're literally about to kill them, is the way their brain works. Right? And we need to understand this. So now think about that in the context of an AI world where more content is going out every single day, where more information is getting to people faster, all the different social media aspects, people are getting stuff thrown at them all the time, and they're being lulled into daydreams, and they're being lulled into ignoring what you're offering. We have to be about creating personalized messaging that actually breaks through that noise and shows people in a clear and compelling way how our product and service contributes to their survival and thriving, and does so in such a way that they don't have to burn any calories to understand it. We are literally in a race to get our customers to understand what we offer. And if our competitor down the street has an inferior product, but actually can communicate in a more clear way, they are going to beat you in the marketplace. Plain and simple. You may have the best product out there, but if you can't talk about these things or talk about your message in a way that does this, you're out. You've lost the game. And so what we then go is say, how then can we break through that noise? How can we actually communicate in a way that communicates to our customer that we can help them survive and thrive, and we can do it quickly? The way we do that is through the power of story. Story is a sense-making device. Our brains are actually, we're so used to understanding how story works that our brain, actually there's a well-worn path in our brain for how story works. And we follow this, we make sense of all the information around us by putting it into a story framework. And these story frameworks have been studied for centuries. It goes back all the way to Aristotle and Plato, and then ultimately has been refined every day at the box office. And there is actually a formula, and when I show you this formula, if you've never heard of Storybrand before and you've not seen this formula, I apologize right now, I'm going to ruin movies for you, because every movie that you see is the exact same formula, at least when it's designed to reach the masses, right? Now, if you get an art house film, it's gonna break the rules, it's also not gonna make money. So if you want to reach the masses, you wanna communicate with the masses, you actually wanna follow this formula. And here's how the formula works. Every story, so take off kind of your marketing hat for a second, and I want you to put on your screenwriter's hat. And I'm gonna talk about the screenplay side of things, and then we're gonna dive into how that applies to marketing. But the way that it works is this. There are really 7 elements that are in every good story. Every story, when I say this, you're gonna go, yep, that's in that story, yep, that's in every movie you can think of. And it works like this. In the beginning of a story, and in a movie in particular, within the first 9 minutes, you have to understand what the main character wants. And it has to be clear, and it has to be one thing. If the main character wants 20 things, or it's unclear, like they just want fulfillment, no, we're not into that movie. If Jason Bourne wants to understand who he is, but he also wants to start a cupcake shop and train for a marathon and get the girl and adopt a cat. We're out. We're already out of that story because it's too many calories that our brain is trying to have to burn. So in the very beginning, Jason Bourne wants to know who he is, wants to know his history. Done. That's it. Katniss wants to win the Hunger Games. There's one thing. There's all of this other stuff going on in their lives. For the story to be clear, it has to be about one thing. Then, that's the first point that has to happen. The second thing that happens in a movie is that the main character has to encounter a problem. If there is no problem in the story, there is no story. If I'm telling a story and I'm getting up and I'm like, oh, you guys, this morning was crazy. I woke up, had coffee, and then I got dressed, right? Crazy. And I just like to keep giving you details about my morning. What you're waiting for during all of that is you're kind of going without even recognizing, what's the point? What's the point of this story? What you don't know what you're doing is you're saying, make it interesting. Why do I need to care about this? And the way it becomes interesting is when I introduce a problem. Now, if instead I said, so I woke up this morning and all of a sudden the fire alarm is going off outside of my hotel and I hear people running down the hallway. And then I just go, what are you doing for lunch? You immediately would go, I'm sorry, what happened? Was a building on fire? You need me to finish that story because now you're hooked in that story. But the only reason you're hooked is because of the problem. You actually need me to finish it. In a movie, it's the same way. If Liam Neeson's daughter gets kidnapped for the 7th time, and then he just goes over and he realizes it's a prank and they shop the rest of the movie and there's no problem, it's not an interesting story. The problem is the most powerful piece in a movie, in a story narrative, because that's what hooks the audience, and the rest of the movie is the hero going to overcome the problem? So they want something, but something gets in the way. There's a problem. Now this is where screenwriters really actually manipulate you. There are different levels of problem in movies. There is always an external problem that the hero has to solve. A bomb is going to go off, a meteor is going to destroy the earth. There's something big that the hero has to conquer. But the movie is not about the external problem. Because how many of us have ever had to disarm a bomb? No? Nope. How many have had to drill a hole in a meteor and put a nuclear bomb in it so it didn't destroy the earth? You? Twice, yeah. Right? We haven't done those things, which means that we actually can't identify with the hero. So what screenwriters do is a little trick. They introduce what's called an internal problem. There's always a feeling that the hero has that the external problem manifests. Usually am I worthy? How many of us have ever asked the question, am I worthy? Can I do it? Right? So that's how they get you, that's how they hook you in the story is, yes, it's about a bomb going off, or yes, it's about scoring a touchdown, or yes, it's about winning a race. Even if none of us have ever done those things, they hook you with that internal of, am I a good father? Am I a good son? Am I worthy of this? Do I have what it takes? All those universal questions, and that's what drives the story. And the way we pay attention is this problem going to be solved? These two things are the most important piece of the story. If you get those two right in a movie, you've got the movie. Then what happens is we know as an audience that the hero cannot overcome the problem on their own, so they need somebody to help them. And that's where the screenwriter introduces a guide, somebody who has already been there and done that, who's won the day and can help the hero win. So there's Luke Skywalker, and there's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda. There's Katniss, and there's Haymitch. Think about there's the young rookie baseball player, and there's the old disgruntled coach, right? Every time there is somebody who comes along and helps them win the day. And the reason why that guide is important is what we call, there's two things that make the guide important: empathy and authority. They understand what the hero has been through, and they've won the day. Once then the guide is introduced in the story, then what has to happen is he or she gives the hero a plan to win the day. There's always a plan that comes along that just at one point, I want to swipe everything off the desk and lay down a map and just go, here's the plan. Because that happens in every movie. Think about how many times you hear the phrase, what's the plan or here's the plan. It's in every movie. It's because no matter how overwhelming the odds are, we as an audience need to see that there's a simple way forward for the hero to win. Now in movies, they don't always work, but there's always a way. In Star Wars, it's trust the Force. In Hunger Games, it's you need to win sponsors. In Ocean's 11, it's here's the 5 things we're going to do to rob the Bellagio. There's always a plan that makes everything that could be confusing simple, and this is the way forward. Then there's a moment the hero has to act. Typically, it's a timer that's going to go off. You have 24 hours before everybody dies, and the hero has to act. Because if we're not compelled to act as humans, we won't act. And then as an audience, we know there are stakes in the story that it either can have a happy ending or a sad ending, failure, tragic ending. We know what that's like, and we're rooting for this and hoping this doesn't happen. This is every movie you've ever seen. A character who wants something, who encounters a problem, who meets a guide, who gives them a plan, that calls them to action, that results in success or failure. That's it. And why every movie boils down to that is the simplest form of a story. You could lay this over any movie, and that's why everybody goes, well, Hollywood is all the same these days. It is, because it's this. Because this is what breaks through the noise. The simplicity of this keeps people interested. Now, let's take off our screenwriter hat and go back to the marketing side of things. Why does this matter? The reality is, every single one of us wakes up every day as the hero of our own story. We are the hero of our own story. I am the main character in my movie, whether I like it or not. We all are, all of our customers are. And we need to understand that our heroes are fighting every day to overcome problems and win their own story. And you have to then position yourself as the guide who helps them win the day. And this formula forces you to keep it simple, clear, and compelling, make your customer the hero, and communicate your message in a way that shows them how you help them survive and thrive, and does it so simply that they don't have to burn any calories to understand. So what you need to do is we no longer need to be about, when you hear people say you need to tell your story, or even you need to tell your customer's story, that's actually incorrect. What you really need to do is invite your customer into a story where they get to be the hero. That's how you make your marketing interesting, that's how you make it personal, and you make it focused on them. So what you need to do is create talking points for what we call a brand script. What is the brand script for the story that you're inviting your customers into? You need to identify and be able to articulate what is it that your customer wants. And you need to do it so clearly that they don't have to burn any calories to understand. So in the last session here, they were just talking about how as AI is searching the internet and searching websites to say, when you type in, give me this best sales software, if people are looking for the best sales software, then you need to put that in your marketing. And people go, well, I don't want to just be cliche. It's not about being cliche, it's about being clear. So if you have the best sales software for people who are using HubSpot, say it on your site. Be very clear. So don't say, grow your business and become a leader. That doesn't mean anything. If you have sales software that actually organizes your leads, say that. So we need to identify what is it that our customer wants. Then we need to hook them in the story by talking about the problems that they're experiencing. The only reason why people are buying your products and services is because you solve a problem for them. So you need to talk about it. If you're not talking about your problem, you're not hooking your customer in the story. And here's that trick. You need to talk about their external problems and their internal problems. Because sometimes people are not able, we were talking about this earlier, sometimes people are not actually able to articulate what their problems are, so you need to agitate them. And what that looks like is, from an external and internal perspective, if, for me, let's say I'm a customer, if my lawn is overgrown, that is an external problem. If I'm not embarrassed by that or overwhelmed by that, I'm not hiring somebody to fix it. I actually hire somebody to fix my lawn based on an internal problem. People go shopping to solve external problems. They make buying decisions to solve internal ones. So in your marketing, you need to ask yourself, what are the problems that my customers are experiencing? We often use the words pain points, but it's easier for me to think in terms of what problem is your customer experiencing that your product solves, both external and internal. So we need to be able to make those into talking points. Then, the biggest paradigm shift in the Storybrand framework is you are the guide, not the hero of the story. Your brand, your company, your product is the guide. You are Obi-Wan Kenobi, you are not Luke Skywalker. And why this is so important is because in stories, heroes are actually weak. They're up, they're down, they're insecure, they're overwhelmed. If you watch a story, the guide never changes. The guide is the strongest character. They've already overcome the day, and they don't need to prove themselves. They just are there to help the hero win. So you need to talk about yourself only. The only time you ever talk about yourself is with empathy and authority. I understand your pain because I've experienced it, I'm like you, and authority, I've solved this problem. That's it. That's all you should ever. So if you are the #1 place to work based on USA Today, but you are not teaching people how to create a great workplace, you should not talk about that. Not in your marketing, doesn't matter. Because that story is about you, not about them. Your grandpa started the company 50 years ago, doesn't matter, that's your story. Make them the hero of the story. So you identify the points that connect you with your audience as being empathy and authority. Then you give them a plan, a 3-step plan, simple way to overcome their problem. That plan should look like how they should buy or use your product. They're confused about how to buy or use your product, and you need to show them, actually, there's a really easy way forward. Then you need to have a clear call to action. What is it that your customer needs to do in order for them to win the day? 70% of small businesses in America do not have a clear call to action on their website. 70%. I could become a billionaire if I went in to consult with companies and said, if I can double your revenue, will you give me 5% of your company? And they would say yes, and I would say, put a buy now button on your website. And I would walk away and I would be a billionaire, because it would double their revenue. Our customer needs to know. In a movie, it's never wishy-washy about what the hero needs to do. You have 24 hours to disarm the bomb or everybody dies. That's how we need to think about this. It's not pushy, but it shows people there is an action you need to take to win the day, or something's gonna be lost. And then that's when the last 2 pieces come in. You need to show your customer what their life is like if they win the day, they buy the product, and what success looks like for them, and what failure looks like for them. What are they missing out on if they don't? If you can create talking points for all 7 of these elements of your customer story, you then have a clear brand message that will cut through the noise, positions your product as something that helps your customer survive and thrive and makes them the hero of the story. Then, when you create these talking points, all you do is use that as the foundational document for your website, for your emails, for your elevator pitch, for your sales decks, for your contract language. Everything then stays uniform, everything stays compelling, and everything stays clear. This is the best way to reach customers. So let me then show you just really quick how this works in a couple brands, and we'll close it out. So this is Allstate. Allstate does really well at positioning their customer as the hero. So just in this one image, they're not talking about Allstate. They put the customer, a happy customer there. So the customer wants to save money. They want to be a happy life. And then they come in and they say, but the problem is, you want carefree life? The problem is there's mayhem. There's mayhem everywhere. And that hooks us in the story. We didn't know we needed insurance because of mayhem. They told us the world is unpredictable, right? Then they come alongside with the former president from 24 with a deep voice, and he's the guide who says we can help you. They give them an all-state insurance plan, which makes things really clear. Then they give a call to action on their website. They sell a ton of different products and services, and theirs is get a quote. Then they come in and they show you that life can be happy and carefree, and then they also, or you're going to experience mayhem. This is a clear message. One more, and then we'll wrap here. This is CarMax. CarMax positions the customer as the hero. They say, they don't come in and say the problem is you need a good car. What they do is they come in and they say the problem is used car salesmen. And they really then come at you with this. They position their brand as the guide. They're salespeople. They're all paid the same. You're not bargaining. We understand your frustration. They give you a plan. And then ultimately, they give you a buy or sell your car. That's all the buttons that are on their website. And then you have a happy car buying experience. And then you're going to get stuck with a lemon and a bad experience. This is it. So what you need to be doing then is understanding these questions. What does your customer want? What problem is your customer experiencing? Have you positioned your brand as the guide to the hero? Have you created a clear plan for the hero to win the day? Are your calls to action clear? Have you explained what their life is like if they do business with you? And have you explained the negative consequences? And we do all of this with what we call a brand script. And if you're interested, you can actually find this. We have this online at storybrand.com/brandscript. And you can go in and start playing with it and start actually creating your own brand script by creating talking points for your customer story. When you do, you will have a clear message, cuts through the noise, and shows your customer how they survive and thrive.
And what was it again? You said storybrand.com/
brandscript.
Brandscript.
Yep, storybrand.com/brandscript. And I'll close it out with this, because I just think this is what really it comes down to. If you confuse, you lose. With all of the AI that's out there right now, there is more noise than ever in the marketplace. And so you need a compelling message that positions your customer as the hero, you as the guide, and helps your heroes win. Thank you, everyone.
Let's give it up for JJ from Storybrand. Great job. Thank you so much, my friend. Awesome.